Hey everyone, Teo here, back again for the full review of the Dell U2421E monitor. First of all, big thanks to Dell Singapore for providing me with this review unit that I have been using intensively for the last 2 weeks for all my work. And I've got to return this in a few days' time. So this review will be from the perspective of a visual content creator, someone who does graphic design, digital art, edits photos and videos almost on a daily basis. This review is going to be long, so if you want to save time, you can actually check out the text review that I have written on my blog, and if there are any updates to this video, the updates will go to the text review. The design of this monitor is very clean and simple. I also like the black and silver color combination. The Dell logo is not very obvious, it's right there on the stand. The display size is 24.1 inches, and from the front you can see the bezels, they are very minimal. The bezels are uniform on all 4 sides. The bezel is 7mm and it's thinner compared to my taskbar. This monitor is quite thin and it becomes thicker towards the midsection there where the stand is connected to, and you can VESA mount this monitor if you want to. The stand allows adjustability for height, tilt, swivel and rotation, so it's full adjustability. And I like how small the stand is because my table doesn't have a lot of space. The surface of the display is matte and there is this anti-glare coating which you can see because my light source, my window is on the right. From the front I can also see some anti-glare, but it's not that obvious. Anyway, I prefer matte anti-glare over a glossy display anytime. Cable management is good. You can have all the cables run through this hole here to keep everything neat and tidy. By the way, if you want to take a closer look at all the different parts of this monitor, just check out my unboxing video. At the time of this video, this monitor is priced at 519 Singapore dollars, which is significantly lower compared to the bigger brother that I reviewed recently, the Dell U2722DE, which is priced at 879 Singapore dollars. So why the price difference? Well, it's because this is smaller monitor. It has a lot of missing features which I will go through one by one. The display size for this monitor is 24.1 inches and the resolution supported is 1920 by 1200. So compared to a 1080p resolution display, you're going to get a bit more vertical resolution, which is really nice because when you are using smaller monitors with lower resolution, any extra pixels or resolution is always welcome. This combination of display size and resolution means that pixelation is very noticeable, even if you don't have another monitor beside to compare to. The next step up in terms of resolution you can get with other monitors is 1440p, which actually has 60% more pixels, more resolution compared to what you can get with this monitor. And when you have more resolution, it's going to improve your productivity significantly. So for example, here I'm using this video editing software called Final Cut Pro. And on this resolution, I can see like one column of thumbnails. If I want to see more thumbnails, I can make the thumbnails smaller, or I can hide the sidebar. I can hide the dock at the bottom so that the software can take up more space. I can like make this bigger, make the viewport bigger just by dragging the sidebar. The thing is, if you are using a monitor with higher resolution, you don't have to do all this. You can just see everything bigger and you will be able to see more content because there are more pixels to fit all that content. So the main selling point for this display is actually the Ethernet port. The RJ45 Ethernet port on the back has a transfer speed of 1000 megabits per second, so it's very fast, actually several times faster compared to my Wi-Fi, and also the 300 megabits per second internet plan that I'm subscribed to with my ISP. When you connect this to your router, you are going to get stable internet and internet through all the USB ports on this monitor. Other features include MAC address pass-through. There is actually a permanent MAC address printed on the label here. There is also PXE boot and WIC on LAN. Now, if all those features don't make sense to you, it just means that you don't need Ethernet on a monitor, in which case I highly recommend you go for the Dell U2521E instead, because that monitor has higher resolution. These are the other ports on the back: a full-size HDMI version 1.4, DisplayPort version 1.4, USB Type-C with 90-watt power delivery. The power output will adjust accordingly depending on the device connected. So if you are using a laptop that requires more than 90 watts of power delivery, then obviously this is not going to charge that laptop optimally. This is another full-size display port. This is a downstream port. This is the upstream port. This is for daisy chaining, and daisy chaining monitors only works with Windows OS. On the right side here, we have two USB Type-A ports. Transfer speed here is USB 3.2 Gen 1, which is 5 gigabits per second. The Dell U2722DE has a transfer speed of 10 gigabits per second, which is 2 times faster compared to the USB ports here. Anyway, the transfer speeds for these two ports very fast. That is the 3.5mm audio line out, which does not support earphones, so this is really for you to work with the Dell soundbar. Another two USB ports here: USB Type-A, USB Type-C with 15-watt power delivery, which is just enough for you to charge your phone. Compared to the bigger brother, the Dell U2722DE, it's missing one USB Type-A port here. That's not a big deal. It's also missing a USB-C port here, and that is a big deal because, for example, if I want to connect this monitor to my computer using HDMI, and I also want to use this monitor as a USB hub, I have to use this port here, the USB-C port here. I cannot connect USB cable here to turn this into a USB hub. So now that I'm using these two ports, if I want to connect my USB-C laptop or other USB-C devices that I want to charge, for example, or get video signal into this monitor, I won't be able to do so unless I disconnect the cable here. With the other monitor, the U2722DE monitor, you can leave this port free and use the other USB-C port to turn this monitor into a USB hub. The extra USB-C port is extremely convenient, and I really miss that here. It's very easy to navigate through the OSD using the directional toggle behind. So here you can adjust the brightness and contrast, input source, colors. The thing that's missing here is picture by picture and picture in picture. That feature is not available with this monitor, and there is also no KVM switch. Right now I have the BenQ monitor connected to the Dell monitor directly using the DisplayPort cable, and this Dell monitor is getting the video signal through the USB-C cable from the Mac Mini. Now this USB-C cable included by Dell is just 1 meter long. It's quite short. If you want to buy a longer USB-C cable, make sure to buy a cable that is fast enough for video pass through, because not all USB-C cables are the same. And I just want to connect this to show you that daisy chain's full effect doesn't work with macOS. Here I only can get the monitors to mirror each other. I am not able to get into the extended desktop mode, basically have the two monitors show different things. The BenQ monitor is not color calibrated, and I am not able to color calibrate this monitor using macOS because macOS doesn't know that this monitor is connected to this monitor, even though both are in mirror mode. The only way I can color calibrate this monitor is to connect this directly to the Mac. I can also use extended desktop mode, and I can also change the resolution for each monitor individually. Right now this is connected directly to this, and this is actually following the resolution here. So the things that you see here, it's very pixelated. And this is daisy chaining monitors with Windows 10. The Dell monitor is now connected to my dual booting MacBook Pro using the mini DisplayPort to full-size DisplayPort cable, and these two again connected using the DisplayPort cable. Daisy chaining only works with DisplayPort, not with HDMI. This monitor actually supports this feature called multi-monitor sync. So if you are using another Dell monitor that has the same feature, you can actually adjust some settings with the OSD like brightness, contrast, or color settings, or other monitor modes, and that setting on this monitor will be reflected automatically to the compatible Dell monitor, and that is actually quite convenient. And now I'm back to using just one monitor connected to one computer. By the way, if you want to get multiple displays, I do recommend you get monitors that use the same resolution so that you don't get the size discrepancy with the user interface elements. Alright, another thing to know is if you use multiple monitors on Windows, there is actually this Dell Display Manager software that you can download to help you arrange your monitor layout. So this can be quite useful. Using a Spider 5 Pro color calibrator, I measured color support for 97% sRGB, 72% Adobe RGB and P3, and just 67% NTSC. So 97% sRGB is actually quite good. It's not 99 or 100% sRGB, but this is definitely more than sufficient for visual content creators, for creating digital art or editing photos and videos where the output is mostly going online. The colors out of the box for this monitor is good. However, I do need to color calibrate this so that the colors here can match the colors on my other monitors and the laptop. The interesting thing here is Dell U series monitors, they are basically sRGB monitors. But for the Dell U2421E, that monitor can actually support up to 87% sRGB based on what I've measured, and that is surprisingly high for an sRGB monitor. So if you really want the extra color accuracy, if you really want Adobe RGB, you can consider the other monitor, which is of course going to be more expensive. I measured a maximum brightness of 271 nits, which is good. Currently I have the monitor running at 80% brightness. Before I talk about the workflow when it comes to visual content creation, let me tell you first what I do for a living. So I'm actually a graphic designer and artist at a local newspaper, so I have a salary job. And the software that I use most often is Adobe Illustrator to create vector graphics at home. I like to create traditional art like pen, ink, and watercolor sketches, such as what you see here. And I use mostly Adobe Photoshop. And for my website, I use a lot of Adobe Lightroom. And for video editing, it's Final Cut Pro. So my office computer is actually using a 1080p display. So this resolution, it's 1920 by 1200. It's very close to 1080p. So I've been using that monitor, that resolution for almost 10 years, and I don't have any issues with using that resolution. But having said that, if I have to spend money to buy my own monitor, I would definitely go with a 1440p resolution monitor. Right, with that out of the way, let's talk about graphic design. So this is a scan of a watercolor sketch that I created, that I drawn recently. And since this monitor is already color calibrated, I was able to get the scan to look very close to my original sketch. So this is great, and the colors on this monitor, it's really nice. Every time I look at my own scan, I sort of think it actually looks better compared to the original. Maybe because I was able to get this to look brighter, because this is lit from the back as well. Because this is lit from the back, and this is just watercolor on paper. So you can see the colors, they match quite well. Next we have Adobe Illustrator. So this is a very old page design that I always use for my monitor reviews. Now this page is actually larger in actual size compared to the physical size of this monitor. This is Adobe Illustrator, and I can see some pixelation even though this is supposed to be vector graphics. I mean, if I zoom up like this, you can see it's still very smooth. But the thing with this monitor's resolution is you are going to see some pixelation. But as mentioned many times, it's very usable. The only thing with this monitor versus my other monitor is I find that I have to zoom in and out more often. So if you have a monitor with more resolution, you can see more of your content. You don't have to zoom in and out that often. And this monitor size, let me compare this to A4 for those page designers out there. So this is A4, you can fit to A4 size paper on this monitor, which is to say that when you design a print page that is A3 size, you will be able to see the page layout in actual size. However, with this particular page, the height is actually 34 centimeters, whereas the height for all the pixels here is 32 centimeters. So I am actually not able to see this page at 1:1 scaling, because if I were to zoom in like this, you can see it's, I mean, this is almost 1:1. I didn't actually measure this, but it looks like 1:1. But you can see it's cropped. I'm not able to see the top when I want to see the bottom right. With a higher resolution monitor, you will not get this problem because you have more resolution, you have more pixels to show everything. And when you add the palettes back in like this, it's going to cover up a lot of your work. It's still usable, you just have to move around, that's all. Next up, we have Adobe Lightroom. No main issues here. I mean, the colors, they look great. Yep, looks great. No issues when it comes to editing photos, definitely. Next, we have Final Cut Pro. Alright, Final Cut Pro would benefit a lot with higher resolution. So for example, here I'm only able to get to see one column of thumbnails. To see more thumbnails, I have to maybe make the thumbnails smaller so that I can see 2 rows of thumbnails. But you can see the thumbnails are now smaller. It's difficult for me to see what's actually there. Or I can just remove the sidebar there and have the thumbnails bigger. The timeline looks alright. And here, if I want to have some effects, I will add this palette here, in which case it's going to squash the timeline. So with a higher resolution monitor, you can actually, let me show this part here, show more thumbnails, and show the viewport larger. You can also have the palette here and still show more of your timeline. So that's the benefit of more resolution. I have been using this monitor for 2 weeks to edit like 10 over YouTube videos, and sure, no problems. I was still able to get my work done, but I would definitely prefer a monitor with higher or more resolution. Let me show you the monitor backlight. So this is an IPS panel, and there is the usual IPS glow. The color of the glow will change depending on your viewing angle. I did not notice any additional glow or backlight bleeding, which is great. So this display, in terms of panel uniformity, it's really good. When it comes to watching movie, there is going to be IPS glow as well, obviously, but this is to be expected. So you're going to see some glow at the top and bottom black bars. This is to be expected with IPS panel, and overall the image quality does look good, except, well, for the 1920 and 1002 resolution, but I don't have any major issues with that. And this, what you see here is pretty much what my eyes see. So is this monitor worth 519 Singapore dollars? I would say yes, for all the features that is packed into this monitor. However, as mentioned again and again, if you do not need the Ethernet port, there are actually a lot of other better options out there. In terms of value for money, I would recommend you go with the Dell U2521E, which has more resolution, has almost the same specifications as this, except without the Ethernet port. Alright, thanks for watching this review. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comment section below. I hope this video is helpful. See you again.